Good evening. I'm Daga McDowell.
And I'm Sean Duffy. Welcome to The Bottom Line.
Let's get right to this, Duffy.
Yeah, let's get to it. A fool's errand? That's how some Senate Republicans are characterizing House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's impeachment inquiry into President Biden. They say it's a waste of time. At this rate, are these Republicans any better than these Democrats?
Certainly not going to speculate on what has been a baseless inquiry that the House Republicans can't even really defend themselves, and that many House Republicans have said they couldn't support their own votes.
No, please don't do it. It's just like those dangerous men over there, you know, the cheap thrills and everything. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just like if they got to do it, they got to do it. You know,
are you
it's a political loser.
There is zero evidence of any malfeasance on the part of President Joe Biden.
The White House even sending a memo to the media about it, demanding more scrutiny of Republicans from the press, as if they aren't already the Biden aqueduct, doing nothing but carrying water for Sloppy Joe and company. McCarthy, thankfully, hitting back.
I think the investigation is really concerning to me that the president, the White House, is telling the press what to say. I think the press should be wanting to know the answers, too. Did the president know when he went to dinner with his son that he would get a Porsche? Did he know when the son was selling the brand, that when he was talking and using an email address that wasn't his own name, so people couldn't find it? Did he know when he was talking about the president for Ukraine, was that in referring to his son serving on the Burisma board with the prosecutor coming after them? Did he know his son was selling the brand was him? Those are the questions I think people want to know.
So cue the high and mighty hair gel governor from California. That would be Gavin Newsom. He's mocking McCarthy, and he's dismissing the inquiry. Watch.
The murder capital of California is Kevin McCarthy's district. They have 63% higher uninsured rate than the city of San Francisco, to the extent you care about families and their health, and 51% higher child poverty rates. You would think Kevin McCarthy would be focused on those issues as a guy who cares deeply about life. I mean, give me a break. This is student government.
You know who oversees law enforcement? State and local. Your haircut with an ego. So what does the big guy think of all of this? Jury's still out.
Let's bring in Republican Pennsylvania Congressman, the great Scott Perry. Congressman, good to see you. So let's talk about the Senate. Obviously, there was a conversation with the Senate earlier today. Some of your colleagues went over, and the Senate seems to be giving some pushback to the House, even on the inquiry. It seems like they don't want to find out what ties Joe and Hunter had together in regard to Hunter's foreign business dealings. What's your take?
Well, I'm sure that they don't want to know, and I'm sure it's hard for all Americans to believe that their president could actually be selling out the country. Unfortunately, Sean, look, we are at this point, as you know, because there's this mountain of evidence, not because of what Republicans have done. I mean, the only reason we know about it is because Republicans are in charge of the House. Otherwise, none of this information would be out there. But there's at least $20 million that has changed hands from foreign individuals to the Biden family, to at least 9 people in the Biden family. We don't know what we don't know about the bank accounts we can't look at, but we know there are 20 shell companies. We know about the emails. We know about the conversations that the vice president had at the time with these people that were paying. And we also know that that Hunter Biden was hired by Burisma to get the prosecutor off their back. And then suddenly Joe Biden went overseas. And as he said, well, son of a B, they fired the prosecutor because they wanted $1 billion in loan guarantees from the United States of America. These things all point to corruption, and the inquiry allows us to get to the rest of the information, which would either clear the president or urge us to go forward in the direction that we're going currently. You would think if you were the president and your name was being smeared and your reputation was being smeared unduly, you'd put all this stuff out there to say, look at it and show me what you see. Here, I'm offering to you. But yet all they're doing is saying, don't look, it never happened, don't believe your lying eyes. We know the playbook. It comes from the Clintons. Deny, deny, deny until the last minute, and then somehow else go on offense. Unfortunately, I suspect the evidence is going to continue to mount against Joe Biden, and the Senate's going to be put in a tough position once the impeachment gets beyond the inquiry. And if that's the case, these folks are all going to have to stand for election and tell the American people why they wanted to keep a corrupt grifter as commander-in-chief of the United States of America.
And with 80% of Americans believing that there is a two-tiered justice system, you have one GOP senator saying this to the Hill. Of course, not on the record. Senate GOP member, quote, maybe this is just Kevin, meaning McCarthy, giving people their binky to get through the shutdown. The condescension over from the Republicans in the Senate, quite frankly, my thought, maddening, given the fact that Republicans in the Appropriations Committee and elsewhere, they have signed on to at $14 billion in additional, quote, emergency spending. Not an emergency. It's for things like defense that's above the level that was negotiated by Kevin McCarthy with the Biden White House in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. They are bigfooting what you, the Republicans in the House, are trying to do in terms of fiscal responsibility and cutting the vicious beast that is government, Congressman.
Yeah, the folks that Dagan and Sean, the folks that I represent can't pay their electricity bills, can't afford gasoline, can't afford groceries, cannot afford to go out to a meal on a Saturday night because of what we're doing in Congress here. And while I did not support the deal on Memorial Day that increased the spending, unlimited debt ceiling, the Senate, you can't even abide by that and is spending more money. And for goodness sake, where were these Republican senators when Democrats were impeaching the last president with no evidence whatsoever? As a matter of fact, just completely conjured things up, destroyed his reputation, and tried to destroy anybody's reputation that ever worked for that administration. Where were they then? Yet with all this mountain of evidence that we currently have right now, circumstantial evidence, they're somehow pouring cold water on an inquiry that most Americans can see with their own eyes. These things, they would probably already be cooling their heels in jail somewhere.
And, you know, these Senate Republicans are shameful. I mean, let's just say it. They really are. I can tell you what, I served in the House with you, and you come out of the Capitol and media comes around you, and they're never fair, right, Scott? They're never fair with you.
No.
And you got into it with a reporter yesterday in a viral moment on the impeachment inquiry, which I love. Watch, we're going to play it for the audience.
What actual evidence do you have, as opposed to allegations, to show to the American public that would merit an actual impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden and prove that today isn't just about some of you successfully bullied Speaker McCarthy for the sake of enacting political revenge?
This isn't about political revenge. We have the bank accounts. It's not normal to have 20 shell companies. These things are not normal, and it alludes to not only just widespread corruption, but money laundering, if not influence peddling itself. If you can't see that, if you are that blunt, look, I'll turn it over to you.
The American people can't see that. They think it's political revenge.
It's because you don't report on it.
Great answer. You don't report on it. Congressman, great exchange. But the question is, are you seeing any of the press that actually want to dig and scratch into what Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, the deal they actually had to sell the American people out? Do anyone want to know?
I mean, we see Sean Duffy and Dagan McDowell, but I mean, if you turn on the other channels, you're not going to hear anything except that Republicans are crazy. And the only person that ever deserved impeachment ever was 45. You know, Joe Biden, St. Biden could have never done these things. Meanwhile, we know that his son committed crimes. That's absolutely irrefutable. We also know that this president lied about his relationship with his son and his business dealings. We also know that this president unsecured classified information in his garage in one of his many homes that no one's ever questioned. Sean, you live on a congressional salary, and I'm not. Look, we do well, but we don't do that well. I don't own any mansions, and I don't suspect you did, or you certainly didn't at the time either. So why is there no question? Why is there no curiosity from the press about these things? It's because he's their guy, no matter what he does, no matter what laws he breaks, no matter where he is in the two-tiered system of economics, of influence, of justice in this country. They're going to support him. That's always the higher bar for Republicans. We don't care. We're going to follow the facts. We're going to do our duty. The press is going to do its thing, but we're going to inform the American people, and then they can make their decision based on the facts.
President Biden, meantime, is choking the oil and gas industry, and
yes,
they see no problem with it. Listen to this.
So gas prices are a large part of the increase we saw in the CPI. Then why is the president then restricting future growth of the oil industry? He made the decision or the Interior Department made the decision in Alaska just last week.
Along with the fact that American producers are more productive than they've ever been, producing almost 13 million barrels a year, we're going to continue to work largely with anyone who will work with us, but certainly with the congressional Democrats, in cutting energy costs by investing in clean energy and reducing our dependence on foreign countries that don't share our values. I mean, I think that is the right agenda, and that's the one that we're aggressively pursuing.
Yeah, those are projects, leases, and drilling permits from 10 years ago. You've pointed out these kind of horrible policies as an attack on the American way of life as a reason to pull back on funding, Congressman.
That's absolutely right. Of course, those were straight up lies. In the last administration, we passed a law regarding drilling and exploration in Alaska, and the president nor the Interior Department can just unilaterally cancel those leases. So again, it's okay for Joe Biden and his administration to break the law, but understand what this is. This is a move to shut off American production of fossil fuels that we use to heat our homes, power our businesses, power our cars, to force you in those high prices to accept electrification via wind and solar produced by China, or if you're going to buy fossil fuels that have to be bought from Venezuela as opposed to American producers. It is outrageous, and it is crippling our country. It is crippling our citizens' ability to live their lives. And this administration on an energy front is at war with America and the American way of life.
Scott Perry, as we go, all remember about a year ago, the FBI approached you and your family. They seized your cell phone, and you just won this case. A three-panel D.C. Court of Appeals found that they violated your constitutional right, violated the speech and debate clause of the Constitution. Congratulations on that. Chalk up a win for justice and the autonomy of the Congress and the separation of powers. We appreciate you joining us on The Bottom Line, and way to take on the FBI. Congressman Scott Perry.
God bless you. Thank you very much.